Why do people hate on players who play absolute difficulty and then ask for it to be nerfed? Wait, what? Why do people hate on players who play absolute difficulty and then ask for it to be nerfed? I don't know. I don't see a lot of that though. Now, this post is pretty interesting because basically what they detail out here is I think the ongoing sentiment that people are getting a little bit tired of balancing the game around absolute. And I think that's kind of a fair assessment to what is happening essentially if they do end up nerfing contested health regeneration. I do feel like that is more of an absolute change. I mean, if anything, any sort of nerf or buff to the game is definitely absolute considered, at least I think. Because in Ruthless, I'm not too sure contested health recovery for melee or for ranged. I'm not too sure that is even going to play in a huge factor. Now, the thing is with lower difficulties is the fact that relic weapons are obviously just going to do a lot better there. So I think even if contested health or ranged weapons were nerfed in Ruthless and Lethal, maybe Lethal, in Ruthless, Substantial, and below, it's not really going to mean that much. You're still going to have a lot of DPS. Now, in Absolute, I think Absolute is a pretty interesting topic at the moment because obviously the devs had an idea to adjust things. I think I should be careful. I should be more careful about saying what the devs want or don't want in the game because I feel like I sometimes put words in their mouth and I'm trying not to do that. So at the very least, I will say it does feel like Absolute obviously is the one difficulty they are considering when it comes to these contested health changes. So I wanted to relay the question to you guys. If you think it's okay for the devs to balance the game essentially around the best performing classes, best performing weapons, all of that. Pretty much any weapon that is good at the moment kind of has this aura that it can be nerfed. I mean, of course, if the devs mention ranged weapon, contested health regeneration nerfs, that does affect every single weapon, even the weapon that were already nerfed. So, like the Meltas, the Plasmas, they already had their contested health regeneration nerfed. I just want to reiterate, I think the devs did that correctly. I don't think the devs need to do this whole sweeping change. It will be fun to try, but with fencing weapons being faster, with balanced weapons being faster, with block weapons being a little bit more damaging, I think overall when it comes to melee balance, the only thing I really have an issue with, is the Thunderhammer. And the Thunderhammer is one of those weapons that have a bugged perk right now, I believe, that their charge attacks won't gain you as much contested health. That is the one thing I think they should change with melee contested health. It should be on charge attacks you get more contested health back. That should just be the way it is. But yeah, I guess for whatever reason, in Absolute, that will make it too easy, essentially. I don't know. See, for me, when it comes to Absolute, trust me, I'm going to go into the post. I definitely have been rambling a little bit too much about this topic recently, but I still, every time when I think about it, there's something new. Seriously though, but when it comes to Absolute, I think contested health overall, I think we're really getting distracted by what actually gets you killed in Absolute. It's 100%. What gets you killed in Absolute is the fact that you weren't able to get your contested health back at all. So, I'm not too sure, because of stun locks. And, obviously, if you get grabbed, you can't get your contested health back. So, yeah, the fact that contested health already fades pretty quickly unless you're using advanced conditioning or some sort of support, I think overall, when it comes to, absolute difficulty and the balance of it, I really don't think contested health is that big of a factor. So, I think balancing the game around absolute difficulty, ultimately, in this sense, probably isn't that big of a deal. But okay, let's go into the post and let's see what this person is cooking. I've been seeing a lot of threads lately thanks to the contested HP rework posts where players complain that it's too punishing or that certain enemies need to be toned down. I'm honestly confused. Isn't that the point of Absolute? The whole idea is that it's supposed to push you to your limits, punish mistakes, and make you adapt. If we keep nerfing every mechanic that's hard or every enemy that poses a challenge in the heat of battle, we're just turning Absolute into lethal or ruthless. I mean, even with the spawns, it will never be lethal or ruthless. Interesting. I'm gonna finish the post. I think this is a very good post. Why pick the highest difficulty if you want it to play like a lower one? If something feels frustrating rather than challenging, wouldn't it make more sense to drop down a difficulty and enjoy the game at a level that feels fun for you instead of reshaping the top tier for everyone? So here's the thing. The way I die in normal siege mode and the way I die in hard siege mode is normally the exact same way. It is normally this exact same way. It's getting comboed on. Now, normal siege mode, it's more likely I'll die in wave, like, after wave 15 maybe. If it's chaos, yeah, I mean, you know, hazards. It depends. Anyway. Anyway, when I do die in normal siege mode, when I do die in hard siege mode, they're normally the same deaths. I'm either Vine Mine, Spore Mine situation, getting comboed off on by double extremists, anything like that, pretty much. There's a Terminator that spawns. Like, dude, honestly, the Terminators with the miniguns, you can't shoot past them even with range contested health regardless. Like, you cannot trade with the minigun Terminators and regenerate your contested health fast enough to, you know, stay on top of it. The only way you can do that is with strategic stand, which is, it's kind of crazy. The devs talked about contested health regeneration potentially being like a bug or something, but then we literally have perks in the game like physiology for, you know, tactical. Then we also have advanced conditioning. We also have strategic stand. We have plenty of ways to support our contested health where it's like, I'm not too sure what they were referring to there, because like you guys do support that in the perk system. So, dude, seriously, that dev poll post, I really hope they just kind of throw out whatever they were cooking there, but we will, honestly, they're gonna put it in the PTS anyway, probably. But yeah, dude, I wonder what the votes are looking like with that. We'll check that later. But okay, let's finish this post. But yeah, when it comes to absolute difficulty, lethal, ruthless, or whatever, anytime where I take huge damage in the lower difficulties, it's normally the same thing that's going to kill me in the higher difficulties. It's just stuff that's hard to avoid. It has nothing to do with semantics or any sort of breakpoints for contested health regeneration, I guess. I'm not saying there's no room for balance fixes. If there's a genuine bug, exploit, or design oversight, sure, fix it. But I died to X enemy and it was annoying shouldn't be the reason to make absolute softer. I agree, but here's the thing also with the nerfs that we've seen so far for the game in general. What, we've seen Spore Mine. Spore Mine has been nerfed. That's a fair one. That's 100% a fair one. Neurothrope, health pools. They were nerfed in anticipation, right? Like, the devs went ahead and just nerfed a Neurothrope health pool, which is fine because Neurothropes are really annoying. Not to mention, you know what else they nerfed with Neurothropes? Their stuns. Yes, the devs nerfed the stun locking that the Neurothropes can potentially do with their AoE fields. So, here's the thing. In Lethal, in Ruthless, the Neurothrope is still, at the time, was still going to be able to stun lock you. Now, it doesn't. So, I think overall that's a good change. I don't think that's like, I would say that's an oversight. A lot of these, I feel like a lot of the older stun lock situations definitely felt like an oversight. And not to mention, the fixing we got with the stun locks now still really aren't that big of a deal. So as far as what has been nerfed, and if it was too much, I don't think it was. I think everything that has been nerfed or adjusted definitely called for it. It's like, I guess, what, bug, exploit, or design oversight. Yeah, a design oversight can mean a lot of things. It could definitely mean a lot of things. I don't think the devs have nerfed too much for Absolute, though. I think everything they nerfed has been perfectly fine. Like, honestly, if we actually go to, like, what the devs decided to do and the results of that, it has been really good for balance overall. So, I don't know. I guess when it comes to whatever changes they have in mind, maybe we should just be patient to see if they have more to reveal about that. I still think just charged melee attack contested health for the Thunderhammer. Like, honestly, if they just buff that for the Thunderhammer, I think everyone will be happy about it. Difficulty settings exist so everyone can enjoy the game in their own way. If we flatten the highest difficulty to suit everyone, then nobody gets the intended brutal experience it's there for. No, I mean, fair, but like, people are still dying. People are still dying in Absolute, man. I don't think they nerfed, and this is so weird that after we see like one of the best balance changes this game has ever seen, now we see so many people like just talking about this game being too easy or too hard, so much stuff we need to change. Like, dude, honestly, I feel like this poll couldn't have released at a worse time, because now I think everyone is kind of just like freaking out a little bit. Ultimately, though, when it comes to difficulty in Absolute, I think it's perfectly fine. You're still, I still think that basically the cause of deaths when it comes to absolute comes from stun locks. It comes from getting comboed off on by multiple extremists, comes from getting hit by like a death beam while also getting hit by a Carnifex, ramming you or something. Dude, yeah, when it comes to absolute difficulty, any sort of contested health changes, honestly, really aren't going to be that big of a deal. And when it comes to how that's going to affect other difficulties are going to be fine. The one thing I will say though about contested health regeneration with ranged weapons, if they do end up nerfing that, which is insane, I still think that's insane. Certain bolt weapons are just not going to be good. The bolt pistol is not going to be good. It's not going to be usable at all. like seriously, the worst weapons in the game are ranged weapons. It's not melee weapons. That's where I feel like a lot of this balanced discussion kind of gets away from us, where we're like, yeah, dude, let's make sure that contested health can regenerate more with melee weapons, even though we have faster swings now, which is going to do that. If they end up making contested health regeneration quicker on melee weapons and slower on ranged weapons, auto bolt rifle, not going to be usable at all. Like, that's crazy. Like, even so, bolt pistol, not going to be usable. The heavy bolt pistol already has contested health nerf. So, and it was silent too. The devs didn't even mention it. I mentioned it in my other video. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to mention it in every video we talk about this topic, just so people understand. Because, like, dude, the bolt pistol will be a bricked weapon if they nerf the contested health regeneration on that weapon. There's just no reason for it. There's just no reason to use it. The only weapons that will be used if they nerf contested health regeneration for ranged weapons will be burst damage weapons, so you can just keep rolling around and making sure that you don't get hit. I don't know, this does sound pretty terrible. Dude, this sounds so bad the more I think about it. Most of it is just ego and salt, but some is legitimate gripes about bugs and inconsistency. Difficulty is fun when it matters, when it's a matter of learning patterns and mastering timing. Not when you can die and fail the mission when the game decides the zone throw beam hits you despite the visual effect missing you by 5 meters. Unbalanced BS is BS. It's just that it doesn't really come up as often on lower difficulties when the game throwing dice doesn't automatically mean you're done and dusted at the first mistake. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I like the quotes on mistake there because, yeah, there's a lot of moments where it's like, okay, so if I perfect dodge this, I'm still going to get punished by the Ravener. If I perfect dodge this death beam, I'm still going to get caught up by the Lictor. The Biovore just stuns you when you run by. It's insane. It's insane. I think when it comes to mistakes, quote unquote, the only thing that I can legitimately point out now is there is going to be a DPS check with some of these, some of these stuns and everything like that. If a Biovore runs by you, and then you also get hit by a zone throw. But that zone throw was out there for like 5 minutes. You guys are doing something wrong. You know what I mean? So I think that's one thing about stun locks where it's like at this point now, if you want to avoid getting comboed off on by extremists, you need to make sure you have somebody in your team that can take out an extremist within a couple shots. Like a Melta heavy will get the job done because you can just continuously stun the Ravener. Dude, watch them nerf stun on the Meltas, man. Watch them nerf stun on our weapons too. I hope not. Let's see, here's why I don't want to put words in the devs' mouths, right? But still, the more I think about it, the more it's like the zone thropes. Like, how are you going to get your contested health back if you get hit by a green orb zone thrope when it can curve around a corner? Like, dude, you're going to be out of. Not only are you trying to escape the fact that you're in a bad position against a zone thrope, he's going to be able to punish you, and then you won't even be able to do anything about it. It just sounds like this is. Oh man. Yeah, this balance change, the more I think about it, the worse it's gonna feel for a lot of the ranged weaponry. It's about the players that say Absolute is too easy and want the game to be harder, which negatively affects everybody who is not playing Absolute or think it's easy. Yeah, that's basically the issue. No, I mentioned this before. There's definitely a divide in people who have the time to get really, really good at Absolute, and then the people who don't. So I think it's kind of interesting. The devs are definitely trying to keep us on our toes, essentially. Dude, actually, the way the devs even mentioned this, they don't even see it as like a absolute buff or anything like that. What really set people off is the fact that they said Absolute isn't punishing. But then they say themselves that they don't even play Absolute. So I think, honestly, that's a I will give a -1 point for leadership there. That is not good. That's not good. Like, dude, to say absolute isn't punishing, I think was the ultimate statement that made the devs look like they didn't understand what was getting people killed in absolute. You know what I mean? Like, they haven't seen somebody actually die in absolute. Maybe they're just watching too many like solo run videos, and they're just like, dude, this game, man, is too easy. And it's like, dude, when you're watching those solo run videos, it's like there is luck involved. It's just sometimes it depends on how much involved it is. Because like even getting a stim at a crate at a right time, even though you can kind of like spawn them if you're low health, you can still get an armor piece. It really depends on like when you run into the crate and everything. There's still luck involved that gets you over the hump for true solo runs. Not for everybody, but it's still a factor. You know what I mean? So like, if you didn't get a stim in the first 3 minutes of the run, but you ran into a terminus, that's bad luck. So I think when it comes to the difficulties in the game, a lot of it's just timing. You know, getting comboed off on and everything like that. It's definitely a little bit annoying to see the devs talk about like, absolute isn't that punishing, so we're gonna nerf ranged weapon contested health regeneration. Well, that is going to harshly affect the weapons that are underperforming at the moment, and the weapons that are good are still going to be good. It's just not going to heal you as much anymore. So now you have to build more into DPS. So that's unfortunate. Like, it's honestly going to cut down the amount of builds we have 100%. My issue is not with hard difficulties. The issue in this case is that the contested health change will affect everyone and not just the people who really want it. I don't know who really wants it. Here's the thing. It's melee enjoyers who are like, oh man, getting more contested health back with melee is going to be really good. But we're all ignoring the fact, range enjoyers and melee enjoyers, we're all ignoring the fact that the devs mentioned that absolute wasn't as punishing, quote unquote, which it is. But the thing is with melee enjoyers in this case is, even if contested health is buffed for melee, you're still going to be put into a position to get comboed off on if you're not playing 100% right the entire time. Like, the mistakes are still going to be there, but the fact that you're going to be committing to melee more often means that you might actually get more stun locks, and you might actually get comboed off on by extremists more often because you're going to be committed to animations. And with ranged weapons, you can do like little chip damage here and there, roll around and dodge all the time and everything like that. With certain melee weapons like the Thunderhammer, which by the way will also, the assault class will literally get nerfed. The assault class will literally get nerfed if they do this contested health change for the most part, because the Thunderhammer is going to be so slow anyway. I think the fencing Thunderhammer might be okay, but like ultimately you're still going to be put into a position to commit to animations, like even charge attacks. If you go for a charge attack for a Thunderhammer and you get grabbed, you're not going to be able to get your contested health back regardless. And that's probably going to happen more often if you are committing to animations. So I look, when it comes to the issue in this case, I feel like this is overlooking a lot of factors. Honestly, the more I talk about it, the more I'm starting to realize, like, dude, the assault class won't be able to get their health back with range attacks at all anymore. The one thing that was holding that class back is the fact that it loses ammo and then it can't get its contested health back. But if they buff melee, oh, you'll be able to get your contested health back. Well, I mean, kind of. It's a little bit harder because depending on the position, you might not be able to get it back because of range, or you might not be able to get it back because you were stun locked. So, oh man, that was the worst timing for a poll post I've ever seen. No one asked for this change. I don't even think the majority vote was for absolute changes last patch, but fine, because it only affects that one difficulty. Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I think, again, when it comes to lower difficulties, I think they're fine. I think the balance in the game is fine. And I will reiterate, the devs themselves did say they like the balance of the game right now. So even though they said absolute isn't particularly punishing, maybe they meant that it wasn't particularly punishing, hopefully. I still think absolute is punishing. For the most part, for like when I'm playing with teams, 9 times out of 10, one of my teammates are dying, or both of them are dying. 9 times out of 10 in absolute. That's pretty much what I run into with average players. Now, every now and then I do come up with a team who's just like flawless across the board. You'll see those videos too. So, I mean, honestly, when it comes to like the balance of absolute and everything and how difficult it is, you can just go back in my patch 9 videos. Like, I've been playing absolute quite a bit recently, so I think we run into players who are, of course, like on the ball. Like recently, I ran into a Bulwark who was able to heal us in Terminus after Terminus fights. But we still, even though we had Invigorating Icon on the team, we still had someone die. Yeah. So it's really, I just think sometimes when it comes to absolute, I think the devs really don't understand how much stun locks really play into that factor. And then that is the one thing for absolute that's actually unique to the other difficulties, is the fact that you can be put into an unwinnable situation in a sense, where you dodge a death beam and then get hit by a Ravener who's gonna roll catch you. That sort of thing. You don't see that in Lethal. You don't see that in Ruthless. So no matter what they do to Absolute as far as contested health changes, that's always going to be a unique thing that Absolute delivers. I think what really happens is just people get used to the enemies we're fighting. Like, the devs can only do so much when it comes down to like the stats and everything, where eventually people are just going to get used to the enemies we're fighting, man. Even the Bivors, like on a good team, you should ping it and immediately focus it. And if a team does that, the Bivor's off the table in like a minute, if that. Like, it's really, really cool to see that happen. And honestly, it's kind of weird to punish players at all if they're just playing well. You know what I mean? So I guess when it comes to Absolute and what they should actually balance around for Absolute, I think honestly, I think the devs are actually doing a pretty good job with it. I just think that poll did not do them any favors. It really did not. Like, I think mentioning Absolute not being punishing when most players I've run into die in Absolute still definitely ruffled some feathers. However, I can also kind of see the point of melee enjoyers who kind of want to see this change. I mean, we'll go into that eventually, sure. But I think right now, I just think if you don't change anything about melee weapon contested health, there are still good melee weapons to get your contested health back. You can do shoulder charges with chain swords, the light swings with power sword on a fencing weapon if you can get your contested health perk for that. I think that's actually pretty good. Power Whirl's pretty good. But yeah, ultimately, when it comes to nerfing contested health with ranged, like, weapons that are already bad are just going to feel worse now. You don't really get that with melee. All the melee weapons are pretty usable. So, I don't know. It's definitely an interesting perspective that the devs have, I will say. Well, I honestly would love to see them talk more about this, which they might, because we will likely get a community update at the end of the month. All right, I think that has to be it. That really has to be it as far as what we have to say about balance changes for Absolute. I think the next topics, we're gonna have to keep a track on that voting poll, that voting, to see what it looks like. Dude, eventually I'll check it out. But yeah, I think there's like a week left of it, so we'll see. But sheesh, that can seriously damage a lot of weapons. Like, the bolt pistol is going to be unusable. It is going to be unusable. But okay, I mean, let me know in the comments how you guys feel about this. Do you think balancing the game around Absolute is a good play? Do you think we're balancing around Absolute too much? Do you think the game balance overall, is it kind of good? Do you think it's good or not? Because to me personally, I think the balance right now is the best we've had in the game, with challenge considered. Because even with Absolute 2.0, a lot of the stuff that we have is pretty strong, like the fire rate Melta, but I think in Absolute 2.0 is actually pretty balanced for that. It's still very strong, but obviously the heavy class is just very strong. Dude, we didn't ask for a heavy buff. The devs also buffed the heavy for no reason, so I think they gave the heavy a perk to actually make it work with the heavy bolt rifle, right? So, I mean, that's fair. Big ups to the devs for that. I think the devs are making some good plays, but they make some pretty unfortunate statements. So ultimately, I still have faith for the devs, even though here and there I really try to not put words in their mouth, and which I'm sorry for. Which I'm genuinely sorry if I say anything that's just off base. Regardless, that's why I let you guys correct me in the comment section. That's why the comment section exists to begin with, just so you can correct people who yap too long. Okay, yep, it's basically time for me to end this video. All right, yeah, let me know in the comments how you guys feel about this, and thanks for watching.